Hey everybody, hope you're doing well. Coming at you because um, I picked up a copy of the Taschen smaller edition of the Shining making of book, and some friends have been asking me questions about it because they're interested in getting a copy. It comes out mid-month, and yeah, I'm happy to answer some of them. First off, as you can see, it's about a foot tall and maybe 9 inches across, so it's much smaller than the 50-pound version that was $2,000 that you may have seen if you went to the Academy Museum in Los Angeles. They had them on sale there. I don't know who was able to buy them. They were ginormous. They were the size of like those DC Absolute editions. It was in a giant box. It opened up and it had a number of books in there. It had some recreations of the All Work and No Play Makes Jack a Dull Boy. I think it had a copy of the script in there, some pictures. It was beautiful, but yeah, like for most mortals who don't have millions of dollars and a giant like podium to keep this thing on display, it was very unwieldy. Fortunately, there's this new version that weighs about 8 pounds and you can carry in one hand if you've got some upper body strength. Is now available, or at least comes out in the middle of the month for about $130. What's it look like inside? Similar to the other version, it has two books. It has a red embossed cover. I'm trying to kind of get it there. It's hard to see with the angle of the light, but it's essentially the same logo as the box, stamped into the faux leather cover of this Gideon Bible replica. What's inside is essentially about 1,000-page narrative of the making of The Shining, that's been put together by J.W. Rinsler, who wrote a lot of really great making of books. He did really good coffee table books on like the making of Star Wars. He did like the whole original trilogy. I think he did Indiana Jones. He did one on Jaws, I think. Really great stuff. He unfortunately passed away right before this came out, so RIP. But this is a really extraordinary book that he and Lee Unkrich, the Pixar director, put together. So what you get in here is really a collection, a narrative based on a bunch of interviews that the two of them did together with cast and crew, other filmmakers. It's a really extensive list. A couple people were kind of like, well, how much does this like actually add to the story of the making of The Shining? I really like The Shining, and I've got the Stanley Kubrick Archives book. Am I going to get new material here? And I would say absolutely yes. And this is coming from someone who also really likes The Shining, and has that Stanley Kubrick Archive book. This is almost all new material in here with regards to these interviews. I mean, new being, in quotes to a certain degree. I mean, I've read roughly the first 150 pages to give you an idea. I've skimmed maybe 30 or 40 of them because I'm like, yeah, I know where Stanley Kubrick grew up, and yeah, I knew how he was making Barry Lyndon. But I didn't know, like, when he was making Barry Lyndon that he was already talking to Garrett Brown about the Steadicam, right? So you're getting tidbits in this book, which are, 1,000 pages. It's broken up by images, broken up by script pages, broken up by memos, broken up by pre-production artwork, broken up by Saul Bass's, logos, all that good stuff, right? You're getting that all in here, including one of my favorite tidbits, which is that Werner Herzog, it was his idea to have the big wheel sound on the carpet and the hardwood floor, because I guess it was driving Stanley Kubrick nuts. Speaking of Steven Spielberg, who I almost accidentally swapped there, he wrote the introduction to this. So really, really, really nice piece, hefty. I'm glad my wife gave it to me a little early for Christmas, because now I can spend the break reading it. The other book is a smaller facsimile of the infamous scrapbook that we only glimpse in the film, but is obviously key to the Stephen King novel. Provides a lot of the exposition, a lot of the backstory for the hotel. I get the impression from the reading that Stanley Kubrick did not want to be too on the nose with this thing, and so he decided to dial that back with regards to its placement in the film. The scrapbook is just images. There's no actual text really in here. There's continuity images. There's news clippings at the front that are fake, but that are designed by Lee Unkrich to kind of look like what we may have seen in the scrapbook. The original scrapbook is missing, but you get, oh, you saw a couple glimpses there of the last scene that was cut from the film, the coda in the hospital. But the real treat in this scrapbook section is when Lee Unkrich was interviewing Danny Lloyd's family, he discovered, and I'm just reading this section in the bigger red book right now, that when they were trying out actors that Stanley Kubrick, obviously promised the family of the young child cast as Danny Torrance, that they could come to England for a year and everyone would be able to stay there because, right, you're not going to let some poor kid just go to England by himself. So the family was really keen on getting this free trip to England, and Stanley Kubrick gave them, especially for Stanley Kubrick, unprecedented access to the set. And the dad was a bit of a shutter fly, and Kubrick was like, hey, you can take pictures, I don't care. So when Unkrich was interviewing Danny Lloyd and his family, they were like, hey, do you want to see all the behind-the-scenes photos? Which no one had really seen before. And a lot of them are in this new book. So yeah, there it is. Again, I haven't finished it yet. I'm about, maybe I've went through the scrapbook and I've read maybe 150 pages of the larger narrative. I've skimmed a little, some of it I've known. A lot of new stuff. Just a beautiful art object to kind of have around if you have the space and you have the means. I'm loving it, especially for the non-back-breaking, wallet-breaking price and format that it's published in. Again, it's like $130. It weighs 8 pounds. It's really nice. If you've got any big cinephile, Kubrick people in your life for the holidays, I'm sure they'd love it. I'll try to do another one of these when I'm done with the thing, in maybe a couple weeks. But in the meantime, that's what's inside the giant box. Yes, it's comparable to the original. Yes, it's more accessible. Yeah, there's a lot of new stuff in here for folks who already have, Shining knowledge and the giant Taschen, Stanley Kubrick Archives book that you may have seen or may own. So yeah, new stuff. Check it out. All right, happy holidays.